Good morning, everybody. It's Tuesday, May the 12th, and we're going to do a quick little fraction review that should include basically every skill that we need for fractions in this unit. So we're going to be adding fractions with like denominators, subtracting fractions, adding fractions and mixed numbers with unlike denominators, and there's going to be a little bit of simplifying fractions. So we'll get started. Just keep in mind that when I do these videos and post an assignment, the videos are pretty much required in order to complete this assignment. Sometimes there's things that need to be filled out or shaded in along with, any kind of document or worksheet that's sent. And so you really have to watch the video. And then two, if there's something that requires writing, and some of you have been really good about this, but for people that are posting that they completed it, that you need to send something written back. So if you can do it on the worksheet, that's fine. If that's hard or technology just isn't there for you to be able to do that, you can type it on a document. You can write it on your own paper and take a picture. But there has to be something returned to show your work, either by writing it or typing it. But that's how we'll know that you did complete it and give you credit for it. So I love to see the pictures and videos saying thumbs up, I did it. And that's fine if it's a video to watch and that's it. You don't have to do anything else. But if it's something that requires writing for you to complete it, then you have to send back what you've written somehow. Even if it's taking a picture and texting it by phone, that's okay, but just return something. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started. This is our fraction review. Tomorrow we're going to start a new unit, which will be measurement. And the first type of measurement we're going to do is time, which is elapsed time, which means how much time has gone by from a starting point to an ending point. But that's tomorrow's lesson. New unit, this is all we're going to do for fractions for right now. And I know that's good news to many of you, and you're not alone in that. A lot of people dislike fractions. But I've said it in a couple of other videos, fractions are going to be around for the rest of the time you're in school. You'll use fractions in math. And you'll also use fractions in real life, particularly with recipes, cooking, sometimes measuring things for your home. You're going to use fractions. Okay, so on that note, we'll get started, and I will grab a pen. And here we're adding two fractions, 2/3 plus, and make sure we're watching those signs because, it's easy to ignore the sign, and maybe we add when we're supposed to subtract or subtract when we're supposed to add. So we're adding 2/3 plus 1/3. They have the same denominator, same. And so I wish this thing needs to stay out, not go away. Let me actually scroll down a little bit and give us some room. All right, let me just erase all that and just start over. Okay, so we're adding 2/3 plus 1/3 have the same denominators. That's the first thing I want to check. When I'm adding fractions. So I've got same, and I'm going to put the same. So my denominator is 3. And then I just add my numerators. I never, ever, 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 ever add or subtract the denominator. It must be the same before we perform the operation, and we keep it the same. So now I'm going to add 2 plus 1, which is 3. So 2/3 plus 1/3 equals 3/3. So you may notice, though, that 3/3 is kind of an unusual fraction because my numerator and my denominator is the same number. So anytime you have the same number in the numerator as the denominator, that is actually equal to the whole number 1. Okay, so 3 divided by 3 is equal to 1. 3 out of 3 is equal to 1 whole. So 2/3 plus 1/3 is equal to 3/3, and that simplifies into 1 whole. And that is the best answer. And when I say best answer, if you got this, then you got it mostly right, but this would be the best answer. And, okay, that didn't really work out. But the whole number 1 is most likely the answer you would see on any type of multiple choice assessment, whether it's an SOL or some other type of assessment. Most likely, the answer choice will not be 3 over 3, 3/3. It would be the whole number 1. And so if it was a type of assessment where you had to click your answer or pick an answer that's already, given choices, you would have to know or recognize that 3 over 3, 3/3, 3 divided by 3 is equal to the whole number 1. Okay? All right, we're going to erase that and we'll go on to the next one. Okay, number 2 is a subtraction. And so let me get my pen. First thing I want to do is check my sign. I'm subtracting. Second thing I want to do is check my denominators. If they're fractions, I need to make sure I have like denominators. So I've got a 7, and I'm going to have a 7 down here. Same. I'm not going to subtract the denominators. But I will subtract my numerator. So 5 minus 2 is equal to 3. So I started with 5/7. I took away or subtracted 2/7, and I'm left with 3/7. Another way of saying subtraction is the difference. So the difference between 2/7 and 5/7 is 3/7. So the difference is 3/7. So a difference means we're subtracting. Well, with fractions, when I get my answer, I always want to ask myself if it can be simplified. Meaning, is there a common factor between the numerator and denominator, a number that can be divided into 3 that can also be divided into 7? So the only number that goes into 3 and 7 evenly is the number 1. And we can divide by 1, but we're still going to end up with 3/7. 3 divided by 1 would be 3. 7 divided by 1 would be 7. So if I divide by 1, that will not change this fraction. And there's no other common factors, no other whole numbers that go into 3 and 7 evenly. So that particular fraction cannot be simplified. It is already in simplest form, and that is the best answer, 3/7. Okay. I'm going to clear that. And I'm going to scroll down. Okay. This one is an adding. I checked my sign and I see I'm going to be adding fractions. I checked my denominators and I notice they are not the same. So I'm not going to start adding yet. because if I do that, I will get the wrong answer. If I add 6 plus 2, that will not give me the correct answer. So I need to find a common denominator. I'm going to change this fraction into something that equals 1/6, but will have a different numerator and denominator. And actually, I'm going to move that equals over a little bit. And then I'm going to change 1/2 into something that equals 1/2, but it will have a numerator and denominator that are different. But I'm going to make these two denominators the same. And so how am I going to do that? I'm going to list multiples of 2 and multiples of 6. And when you're really good with your multiplication facts, you may not need to do this step. You may already know the lowest common multiple, the lowest common denominator to use. You may know that because you know your multiplication facts. But if you don't, there's a way to figure it out. We list the multiples of 2 and the multiples of 6. Well, how do I find a multiple? You multiply. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 4 is 8. 2 times 5 is 10. Okay, I usually do 5 multiples as kind of just a suggestion, but you can do less, you can do more. But 5 is usually a good number to start with. So now I'm going to list the multiples of 6, starting with 6 times 1, 6. 6 times 2, 12. And there go the dogs. 6 times 3, 18. 6 times 4, 24. 6 times 5 is 30. Maybe you don't know your multiplication facts. Well, you can count by 6s. Remember, multiplication is just repeated addition. 6 times 5 means I'm just going to add 6 up 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, so you can use your fingers, you can use repeated addition. Okay, so I've got my multiples of 2, my multiples of 6. I want to find the smallest one that they have the same. 2, nope, no 2 here. 4, no 4 here. 6 is the lowest common multiple of 2 and 6. So I'm going to change my fractions to have the denominator of 6. Now, if I had kept going, the next multiple of 2 after 10 is 12. They have that in common. 2 and 6 have a lot of common multiples, but we try to use the smallest one because it makes it easier to simplify at the end. All right, so we want it easy at the end. So I've got my common denominator now, 6, 6. But I have to find my numerators. So I have to ask myself, okay, 6 times what number gave me 6? Times 1. Okay, maybe you can skip that step. Maybe you already realize that if this is 6 and this is 6, this is 1, this has to be 1. But 6 times 1 is 6. So I'll do the same thing in my numerator. 1 times 1 is 1. 1/6 here equals 1/6 here. Okay, that's easy. But now what about 1/2? Remember, this is a proportion. It's a ratio. It's a division problem. A fraction is all of those things. So this is 1 out of 2, or 1 divided by 2. So I need to ask myself, how did I get from 2 to 6? 2 times what number? Well, 2 times 3 is equal to 6. And I have to do the same thing in the numerator. 1 times 3 is 3. So I've changed 1/2 into 3/6. Okay, that really wasn't so hard, right? And 1 out of 2 proportionally is the same as 3 out of 6. 1 divided by 2 is equivalent to 3 divided by 6. So these are equivalent fractions. I'm going to erase my multiples here just to give myself room to add. So let me do that. Okay. So now I'm going to add. Remember, I have same denominator, same denominator, same denominator. 6, 6, 6. Okay. But I can add my numerators. 1 plus 3 is 4. You got it. Okay. So 1/6 plus 3/6 equals 4/6. Or 1/6 plus 1/2 is equal to 4/6. But remember, with fractions, I have one more step. I have to ask myself, is there a common factor? A number that can be divided, a whole number, that can be divided into 4, that can also be divided into 6 evenly. That means that the answer or the quotient is a whole number. Is there a whole number that goes into 4 evenly that also goes into 6 evenly? Yes, that number is 2. So I can divide 4 by 2, 4 divided by 2, and 6 divided by 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 2/3 is my final answer. It's the best answer. 4/6 is not wrong, but again, if this was an assessment that had answer choices, you won't see this answer choice. You would see 2/3, and you would need to know that 4/6 is equivalent to 2/3. This is the best answer because it is in simplest form. If you are baking a recipe, I Zoomed with CJ this morning to do some reading, and he showed me some bread that he made for his mom for Mother's Day. And he said he did follow a recipe. So on a recipe, you might see a measurement. Maybe you need to add 2/3 of a cup of oil, cooking oil. Well, you'll never see 4/6 because that's not a simplified fraction. The correct fraction would be 2/3. And so we always need to check our final answer and make sure it's in simplest form. So 1/6 plus 1/2 is equal to 2/3. All right, moving on. I'm going to erase this. And again, if you're writing this at home with me, you can pause the video and write it down. You can watch the video all the way through and then go back and do it on your own. But if there's something that requires writing, you do need to write or type if you want to type it up and send it back. If you can't send it back on Seesaw, then take a picture and send it by phone. You can text it. Your parents all have my Google Voice number. You can email it. You know, there's a lot of options, and if you can't figure out any of those options, then ask someone at home to help or have your parents contact me, but we have to have some way of showing that you completed the work. Okay? All right, so I'm going to clear that. And number 4, same two fractions, except I'm subtracting. So the first thing I always want to do is check that sign. I've got a subtraction, and I've got unlike denominators. So I'm not going to subtract those. I'm not going to do 2 minus 6. I have to change these fractions into equivalent fractions, something that equals 1/2 and something that equals 1/6, but they have the same denominator, like denominators. Okay, so I could list the multiples again. I'm going to skip that step because hopefully you remember from the last time that our common denominator was 6. The lowest, because there are others we could use, but the lowest common denominator between 2 and 6 is 6. So I've got a 6 here, I've got a 6 here, and so I will have a 6 down here in my answer. Okay, so the bottom fraction already has the same denominator. So to keep these equal, of course, they're going to have the same numerator. 1/6 equals 1/6. You can multiply it out and do all that times 1 times 1, but hopefully that's pretty clear that 1/6 equals 1/6. 1/2 is equal to how much of 6? How much out of 6? Well, many of you probably already know, you remember, but I'll go ahead and go through the steps. So 2 times what number is equal to 6? You can count by 2s. 2, 4, 6. Okay, 2 times 3. If I multiply my denominator times 3, I'm going to do the same thing with my numerator to keep them equal fractions. 1 times 3 is 3. So 1/2, 1 out of 2, is equivalent to 3/6, 3 out of 6. And remember, I am subtracting. So I will do 3 minus 1, or I'm finding the difference. Another subtraction word is difference. The difference between 3 and 1 is 2. The difference between 3 and 1 is 2. Okay, so I've got 2/6. All right, so 1/2 minus 1/6 is 2/6. But remember the final step with fraction problems, I have to ask myself, is this fraction in simplest form? Or can I simplify it? Meaning I can find a common factor, a number that divides into 2 that also divides into 6 evenly. And we're talking about whole numbers. So what number goes into 2 that also goes into 6? 2. So I'm going to divide by 2 in my numerator, and I'll divide by 2 in the denominator. So I'm going to find my final simplified answer, a fraction that is equal to 2/6, but it's in simplest form. 2 divided by 2 is 1. And 6 divided by 2 is 3. And so my final answer, the best answer, is 1/3. So 1/2 minus 1/6 is 1/3. Okay, moving on. Okay, number 5, we're adding mixed numbers. Mixed numbers have whole numbers, a whole number 2, a whole number 3, and then they have fractions too. So I've got sorry, I had a text. I thought it was something I'm supposed to be doing with Dr. Butler right now, but that's next week. Okay. So I've got the fractions 1/3 and 1/6. So just like adding whole numbers, we kind of add vertically in columns. And that's why even if the problem is written horizontally, side by side, I don't want you to add it that way. I want you to rewrite it vertically, up and down. Because I'm going to add my fractions and my whole numbers separately. Okay, but I can't do anything yet. Checked my sign. I've checked my denominators, and they are not the same. So, once again, I'm going to have to rewrite these fractions with a like denominator, same denominator. Okay, I can list the multiples of 3 and the multiples of 6. But hopefully by now you're starting to get these without writing out all the steps, but I'm going to write them out anyway. My multiples of 3. 3 times 1, 3 times 2, 3 times 3, 3 times 4. Okay, I'm going to stop there. Now I'm going to write my multiples of 6. That's a 6. 6 times 1, 6 times 2, 6 times 3. Okay, I could keep going. 6 times 4 is 25. 6 times 5 is 30. 6 times 6 is 36. I could keep going on, but I want to find the smallest or lowest common multiple, and that is 6. And so I'm going to rewrite these fractions both with a denominator of 6. Could I have used 12? Sure. Could not use 9, but I could use 12. I could use 18. I can use 24. But I'm going to use 6 because that makes it easier to simplify at the end. Okay, so 1/6 is going to equal 1/6. But 1/3 equals how much out of 6? Well, 3 times 2 is equal to 6. And so I have to do the same thing in my numerator. 1 times 2 is 2. And I'm adding. Okay. So I've rewritten 1/3 as 2/6. And 1/6 is 1/6. I really did not need to change that. I'm going to erase these multiples down here to give myself room. And so I've got same denominator, and my answer will have the same denominator. And then 2 plus 1 is 3. So I've got 3/6. But remember with fractions, I always want to ask myself before and you could go ahead and add the whole numbers here if you want, or you can simplify this fraction. Either way, you're going to get to the same place, same answer. So let's just suppose I want to go ahead and add my whole numbers. I've got the whole number 2 plus the whole number 3, which is just going to be 5. So I've got 5 and 3/6. But then I noticed something funny about this fraction. It doesn't look like it's in simplest form. There is a number that can go into 3, that can also go into 6 evenly. So 3/6, if I divide by 3 here in my numerator and divide by 3 in the denominator, 3/6 is equal to 1/2. So my final answer is 5 and 1/2. And this is the best answer. Okay. And that's how you add mixed numbers with unlike denominators. All right, one more. I'm going to clear all this. Number 6. Number 6, I'm adding fractions again. First thing I want to do is check my sign. I'm adding. Check my denominators, not the same. Not like denominators. So I know I'm going to have to change them to have a like or common denominator, the same number. All right, so once again, I'm going to go down here and list my multiples. Multiples of 2. Count by 2s. 2 times 1, 2. 2 times 2, 4. 6. 8. 10. All right, I'm going to list my multiples of 5. Count by 5s. 5 times 1. 5. 5 times 2. 10. 5 times 3. 15. 20. 25, 30, 35. I could keep going, but maybe by now you've noticed that the lowest common multiple is 10. So I'm going to change 1/2 into something over 10. And I'm going to change 4/5 into something over 10. But I'm still keeping these fractions equal, not changing the value, still keeping these fractions equal, not changing the value. Okay, so I have 4/5 equals some number over 10. 5 times what number is 10? 5 times 2. 4 times 2, because I have to multiply by the same number in the numerator, times 2 times 2, and 4 times 2 is 8. So 8/10 is equivalent to 4/5. Okay, down here, I want 1/2 to equal some number over 10? 1 out of 2 equals how much out of 10? Well, to get from 2 to 10, I had to multiply times 5. So I'll do the same thing in my numerator. 1 times 5 is 5. So 1/2 is equivalent to 5/10, and I'm going to add. Remember, same, same, same. So I'm not going to add my denominators 10 plus 10. I am going to keep it the same. 10, 10, 10. And then I'm going to add my numerators. 8 plus 5 is 13. Okay, I have 13/10. But remember, with any fraction problem, I have to ask myself, is that the best answer? Is it in simplest form? And it is not. Because we notice that our numerator, 13, is bigger than the denominator, 10. So what kind of fraction is that? What do we call it when the numerator is bigger than the denominator? We call it an improper fraction. Improper fraction. That means that there's a whole number and a fraction that we can simplify this into. This will equal a mixed number. So how many groups of 10? This is basically 13 divided by 10. How many groups of 10 can I get out of 13? This means 13 divided by 10. Okay, another way to simplify this is I have 13 things. I don't know what they are. Balls. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And I'm grouping them by groups of 10. So how many groups of 10 can I make? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so I made one group of 10. And then how many were left over that were not in that group? 1, 2, 3. So that is my numerator. I had 3 out of 10 left over. So 13/10 is equal to the mixed number 1 and 3/10. So just remember that any time that we have an improper fraction where the numerator is bigger than the denominator, we can simplify that into a mixed number, a whole number and a fraction. Okay, so that's it for the video, guys. This is our fraction review. I'm going to post the video, and so you're going to need to complete the sheet that I just completed. You can copy what I did. You can try to do it independently. And then I'm going to give you a couple of additional problems to complete using these as an example. So if you get stuck and you can't remember how to do it, go back and rewatch the video and just follow the same steps. Different numbers, same steps. Okay, and then post what you've written, or you can type it or write it on a piece of paper, take a picture, and send it back. Okay, Thank you guys. Have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow. Remember, Zoom tomorrow at 10 o'clock. It's going to be hat day, so wear a hat. And I'll see you tomorrow. Bye. Miss you guys.